Being glute dominant refers to a tendency to rely on the gluteus maximus, the butt, more than quadriceps for squatting type movements. Many people believe that this is one of the key determining factors predicting athletic performance, and while the term itself is a little overplayed and may paint an oversimplified picture, it's certainly true that many of us struggle to properly activate our glutes during movements that should feature them front and centre. If, like many people, you are currently quad dominant, then making a few changes to your training may help you to tap into greater explosive strength. This makes a ton of sense when you consider that the gluteus maximus is the largest muscle in the human body, and that its main role is propulsion. Jumping, climbing and sprinting. It's often referred to as the anti-gravity muscle. Oh, and of course, if you're trying to build big glutes because you think it looks good, then you need to activate the glutes properly, otherwise you won't get any benefits from all of those squats. If you perform a large number of squats and you notice that your quads are more fatigued at the end than your glutes, there is a large chance that they are playing a disproportionately big role in that movement. Thus you are quad dominant. You might also notice that your lower back does more work during back squats, and you may encounter knee pain. Quad dominance can be somewhat genetic, but for many of us there is a simple fix. Use flatter shoes without a heel to toe drop and work more on your mobility. Here's the thing, if you're performing squats using high structured shoes that raise your heels off the ground, then that's going to force more weight onto the balls of your feet, especially as you drop into the bottom of the squat. You're essentially leaning forwards. This also means that you now require much less ankle mobility to get to the bottom. See this for yourself, try performing a pistol squat with shoes on and make a note of how easy it is and whether you fall over. Now perform the same thing barefooted. You'll find that it's easier to stay balanced with the shoe on. Why? Because you're being slightly tipped forwards, thus ensuring you don't fall backwards. With the shoe off, however, you now need more ankle mobility to lean forwards and to avoid falling. The weight is further back in relation to your heels. Pistol squats with and without heeled shoes are two entirely different movements. Remove your shoes or use barefoot shoes during the squat then, and you'll be able to engage your glutes more. To further enhance this effect, you'll need to be more mindful of the way you're moving. During the squat, that means you'll want to focus on driving through the heel of the foot. The other problem, of course, is that many of us spend all day sitting on our buttocks. This not only weakens the muscles, but it also deadens our proprioceptive feedback entirely. Eventually, we actually lose some of the ability to communicate with the glutes, thereby making it much harder to activate them during training. This is then combined with unwanted adaptations and lost mobility, such as tighter hip flexors, which makes it extremely difficult to drive through the posterior chain. A very simple way to solve this one is to take regular breaks throughout the day and to get into a low resting squat. I do this in the morning as part of a morning routine and any time I get up to make coffee. It's made a huge difference to my mobility and athleticism, and just as useful is to include a few slow air squats before starting my workout proper and taking the time to feel which muscles are activating. But of course, when jumping during sports or in parkour, you don't actually drop into a deep squat first. More often you push off the ball of your foot with only a slight bend at the knee. This is something that JC Santana pointed out to me during a recent chat. So the answer here is to make sure you're using your leg properly by landing on the ball of the foot when running or leading up to a jump. This, while keeping the knee and ankle directly below the centre of gravity, is what will allow you to compress your joints properly to absorb the impact and return that energy through the ground, rather than just jolting through your knees. This is also what allows you to properly engage the glutes. And it's also another big advantage of going barefoot or using minimal shoes. Author Chong Shi speaks at length about the hyperarch mechanism. He explains how forming a stronger arch in the foot by landing on the balls of the feet, not the toes, can help to activate the glutes even more. Then during propulsion, starting with a slight dorsiflexion of the toes, this will allow you to drive through the big toe and activate the glutes even more. In short, your leg acts like a kind of spring, allowing your hamstrings, glutes and quads to work together as they're supposed to, and your big toe is able to help drive even more force through the ground. The big toe and the glutes are necessarily connected, seeing as the glutes aid in external rotation of the hip, and this also makes a ton of sense when you consider how many movements, from jumping movements to talking movements, involve driving power through the big toe. The toes are the bridge between the massive muscles in our lower body and the ground. This is also why, according to Thomas Myers, we have fascial connections, called trains, that run from our feet to many other muscles in our upper bodies, because we use them all together so often. Again, this is something you'll lose if you constantly wear thick shoes that prevent you from engaging your toes and encourage you to land on your heel when running. The hallucis longus, which is the toe flexor responsible for the big toe, has also been shown to respond to direct training, providing improvements in running speed, jumping height, balance and more. My favourite options for toe training are to use an isometric hold, trying to push the big toe into the ground, a trick used by ballet dancers. Another option is to use calf jumps or calf raises, while being mindful to really engage the big toes. Likewise, we can improve glute strength and activation with specific targeted training for the glutes. Glute bridges in particular help to not only strengthen the glutes, but also stretch the hip flexors and counteract the anterior pelvic tilt. They'll stabilise the knees and help you to be more mindful when running and squatting. Another great one is step-ups. Do these with a barbell and you'll be forced to drive through your posterior chain with no option to let the quads take over. This is a fantastic movement in general actually, as it also requires you to stabilise the hips and to push off of a single leg. Two things which again reflect the way we actually use our legs in the real world.
Another thing you can try is a box squat, and here you're placing a box or something else behind you as you squat down, and that allows you to really get down into the squat without worrying about falling over backwards, and then to drive yourself up through your buttocks.
Notice that these recommendations are compound and not isolation. Isolating the hamstrings and quads with resistance machines and building them up disproportionately might have actually contributed to this issue for many of us in the first place. The aim is to practice using these muscles together as they were designed to be used. And of course we don't want to become glute dominant at the expense of proper balance either, which is again why I think a more appropriate term is glute activation. So hope you found this video useful and interesting, guys. If you did, then please leave a like and share it around, that helps me out immensely. Subscribe if you want more like this. Let me know in the comments down below how you train your glutes and whether glute activation has been a problem for you in the past. If you like this kind of training for performance first, then you'll probably enjoy my ebook and training program, Super Functional Training. You can find a link to that in the description down below, and there's a discount on right now whilst many people are still in lockdown. Thanks a ton for watching this one, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.